What's it like sharing such a personal story in front of 800 people?
It is liberating. Every time I go up there and share a story and talk about my journey, it really is about putting the shame where it belongs, which is not with me. It is with the abusers. And it's about owning my narrative and owning my voice and changing lives. I share my story because I know it's not just my story. It is the story of millions and millions of women and girls around the world who continue to suffer in silence and whose present is my past. And that's why I keep sharing it.
What's it like to turn that into something so public, sharing it in a book, soon to be in a television series, and continuing on speaking engagements? What kind of feedback do you get after you turn it into those things?
Incredible. That's what keeps me going. It's like my soul food. I call that my oxygen. I have people writing to me how my book or my story or my speech changed their lives. Yesterday I was in rural Manitoba and girls are hugging me after my speech and writing to me on Instagram now that I empowered them and changed their lives to be better. And a man writing to me from Pakistan saying, I've decided to cancel my teenage daughter's wedding and send her to school after I read your story. Or a woman writing that I'm hiding in my local Indigo to read your book every day because my husband won't allow me to buy it. Wow. And I wake up to dozens of these messages every single day. And that's what keeps me going, because that's why I do what I do.
For people who maybe not necessarily even fall into an arranged marriage, but for people who find themselves in a domestic situation where they need to get out, what are some of the things that you learned yourself or that people have shared with you since you left?
I think the biggest thing is that be kind to yourself. Leaving is not a one-time thing. Leaving is a journey. It takes several times, and every time you leave, you're filled with doubt, and you might go back, and then you feel even more guilty that, oh my God, I went back, and now maybe I'm not strong enough. And I hear this all the time from women. Before I wrote my book, women would come up and say, well, you can do it because you're so strong and you're so powerful. I can't. And I was like, don't compare my end to your beginning, because when I was in that situation, I also tried to leave 5 times before I was finally about to leave. I also failed. I also fell. So all that is part of the journey. And what I would say to others around these women is support them and give them unconditional support and love. So no judgment. We're here for you because they could be in your family, they could be in your neighborhood, they could be around you. 1 in 3 women in Canada are affected by intimate partner violence. 1 in 2 are affected by some kind of physical or sexual harassment. So it's literally every other one of us. So either we've personally been affected or we know someone who has. So we need to create that community of unconditional support without judgment, and remove the shame and stigma from being able to leave and then eventually being able to talk about it. Because the more we talk about it, we uncover these issues, bring them out from under the rugs. That's how we're going to remove that silence. And silence becomes the biggest ally of abuse. Silence always helps the oppressor, never the oppressed. And that's why events like these, conversations like these are so essential.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me.